Hello, everybody. I'm not sure how many people we actually have with us today because I kind of lost track, but welcome to our first live online live. Jen and I came up with this about 10 days ago, so you are our inaugural group. Jen, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are so glad you're here, and we want this to be engaging, and we want you to participate. So we'll start with our microphones muted, but we'll ask you to probably unmute and share some ideas in a little bit.
Okay. Did you want to ask people to fill in the form for you, Jen?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hi, Anthony, Andrea. So good to see people. Not that you're not people, Mary, but I see you all the time. So good to see people. Yes, we're going to have you start, and this is kind of a nice way to get the class started as students are kind of logging in or joining, is having them fill out the attendance online. And as people are, we'll let you take just a minute to do that. There's just a couple quick questions. Hi, Christina and Lori, good to see you. And then we'll move on to our very first tip. So I will peek in the attendance form on the back end, which that's the nice thing that you can do as you're an instructor, as they're coming in and kind of filling out the attendance. The thing I like about a Google form is it stamps the time that students signed in. So you don't necessarily have to ask them that time question. I do like to have them do both a first name and a last name, because that way I can sort if I want to sort them just by last name, if I'm taking attendance that way, or by first name. It works really well. And while we were in base camp, when we had you guys do surveys, all 600 or 700 people who went through base camp, we used the same survey, the same link over and over and over again. So you can just use the same link every time you take attendance if you want for your students. And it, like I said, you can sort it by date, you can sort it by last name. It's just really a nice way to do attendance. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. We are glad you're here, and we really wanted to dive into this live online area because it's different. It's something that we haven't done a lot of before. We've taught in the classroom, we've taught online, but this whole managing the online while teaching and managing all the technology is new and certainly challenging. So we wanted to give a couple survival tips, and then we want to hear from you too. What's working, what's not, what are the challenges, and how can we help? So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, Mary. The first survival tip is to add a countdown timer. Some of the benefits is it really helps students know when class is starting. They might be able to start and get a copy. They know they're all in the same time sync. I said, Mary, are you going to get that online timer started? And she said, we have 4 minutes. And I'm like, I have one computer ahead and one delayed. So it just kind of helps sync everybody up at the same time. And at the end of this slide deck, we will share and do a forced copy. I've pulled, I think, 6 or 8 of my favorite 5-minute countdown timers, so you can just embed them with music or without music. Just plug them on a home screen and students can see them. So has anybody, go ahead and unmute or share, anybody tried something like that, or anybody have any suggestions for using timers or countdowns? It's a nice way for students to know they're in the right place, those that get there a little bit early.
I've been having students, actually, the first one in is DJ for the morning, so that I can start focusing up on some of the other things. So I have that student kind of take over and leave their, and they actually put it on their phone and just have their phone speaker going, which tends to work. And then as other people get in, then I'll ask them the question about, hey, what song was that? Who's your favorite artist? You know, that sort of thing. And we start having that conversation, and it eases us into the day. So it's one less thing that I have to do. I'm all about giving students jobs. So that seems to be working well, that I don't have to manage that, because I'm busy admitting people, because I'm stupid enough where I'm still doing Google. And that's part of the other thing that I want to do is this attendance. I like this. So there's other things at the beginning of class that I've got to find a way to streamline, because I'm working hard, not smart.
Absolutely. And that's what we want to talk about today, because we've all mastered that, what happens when we're in the classroom and how to do it. And it's a completely different beast here. We still have all the same housekeeping things. We still have the attendance. We still have students that have questions and want to come in early and have questions, and we've got to get the materials ready. So that's what we kind of want to focus on, are some great management kinds of tips.
And I don't have the countdown timer, but I could see using this. I was at an Adobe Educators conference a few weeks ago, and they did a whole session where the people who were facilitating stayed on. It's like a live online. It was a creative challenge, and the people who were facilitating stayed on the line the entire time and would have their students, that was us, in their small groups. And they would set a timer and say, okay, here's step 1 of your task. You have 20 minutes to complete this, and they'd put the timer on. So it can also help you manage your time in that live online environment.
Absolutely. This next slide is another one of my favorites because you could just put the slide up without necessarily any content. This one has just got beautiful visuals, and it just kind of goes through and it streams. So just simply putting the slide up there, and then this one is later in the deck as well. So it's just there's a lot of nice ones out there that are free that people have created for multiple purposes that they've open copyrighted so for you to use and embed. So it just makes it really nice to have that succinct countdown. And again, there's more at the end of the slide deck. So let's move on to our second tip. We've got 3 for you here today, is switch up your waiting room based on the daily activity. So you can really use this home slide when students are logging on to really pack it full of content based on what you're going to be doing for that day. So you could have a checklist there where students are, doing something related to attendance. You could have a to-do list. I mean, there's just so many ways, and we've brainstormed quite a few ways, but we want to hear from you. Have any of you used that home screen? In particular, I've got a student who is eligible for DRS services, and so I'm kind of meeting with her weekly, and I thought, boy, I would love to have that time, maybe 10 minutes beforehand, to have that screen up, because if I had a screen on, she would know what she needed for the day, she would know what materials were available, what to get out. You could kind of set that day up or what the agenda is, and that would kind of give them a little bit of comfort that they know what they need to have, so you don't start the lesson, they're like, wait, I don't have my book, I didn't know we were going to use our book today, or wait, I don't have that. So these are just some suggestions, but I'm going to have you guys share. You can share in the chat or you can unmute. What do you think you could use this home screen for when they're logging in addition to maybe like a timer?
Jen, I used like Pear Deck today. Just said, tell me something fun or exciting this weekend.
And I love the chat feature. I love that students can share in there too. The big challenge that Mary and I have been talking about with the chat feature is, say we put something in there 2 minutes before class, you can only see the chat as soon as you log in. You can't see any backlog. So there's a lot of important content that students miss if you put it in before they log in or they don't have access to. So doing those chat features is a little bit difficult to put content in there. It's a great place for them to share though and respond. I love that. So they could do it in Pear Deck or they could do it in response. Joni said, we have a chat box question each day. I love that. Anthony said, I also do Easter egg questions for Kahoot to see if they actually watch the videos in the lesson I put online. Lori said a cartoon joke related to the topic. And Roja says, I use WebEx Teams. The chats are saved. Okay. So let's go to the next one. You guys came up with most of them. So any kind of announcements, any of those kinds of events that help students be aware of what's going on campus or resources available, any of those things that are coming out that they might miss an email because sometimes we just feel blasted with emails. So when the food pantry's open or those kinds of things, announcements are great. A quote of the day, something inspirational, any assignment due date reminders, a reflective question. I love, like Joni said, the chat. We've got joke or cartoon. Any materials they're going to need for the class, or even agenda to just know what's happening. Even saying something like, open up your chat because we'll be using it today. I know sometimes you can get halfway through a discussion and go, wait, only a few of them have their chat on. So, kind of setting those expectations for what they're going to need to be successful in class. The next slide is one that we just shared 2 weeks ago before we got started. You can put an attendance question in here as well, so they're answering the attendance question in the chat, and because that's recorded, you can go back and take attendance there. It can be a prior knowledge question related to whatever content you're going to cover, or a favorite part of the reading, or one of the favorite pieces from the video, Anthony, to make sure, yeah, they did watch the video. And that's a great way to hook that online portion of what they're doing or that homework portion of what they're doing when they come, having that question ready to really connect the live online part to the online part. So any of those kinds of things, really use that to your benefit, and it gets students in and it gets them started. I know my daughter has had like 6 different classes a day, and she's waiting for that teacher to start, and some of them are late, some of them are early, some of them hop right in, and the ones she's excited about have something fun to get them started or get them engaged at the very beginning. So if you were doing a lesson plan, this would be the hook, something to kind of capture them or get them ready for learning. I love your name, Anthony, the DJ for the day. But one of the things that we were talking about is you guys are content experts, you're teachers, you're experts in so many things, but all of a sudden now you need to be a tech expert as well. And I think about a pilot flying a plane. He's got a co-pilot for like that backup stuff. Or the captain of a ship has a first mate. And if we're in the online environment, it's not planning for if something goes wrong with technology, it's planning for the when. Because your dogs are going to bark, because somebody's going to ring the doorbell, or somebody's going to come in the room, or your technology is going to go out. Joni and I were in a statewide meeting last week, and the gal said that where she is, she has spotty internet connection. And so the guy just kind of picked up, and he said, when this happens, I just kind of go on. So preparing for that what if moment, like what happens if you get distracted and pull away? What is the role of that TA? So let's just think about that. Anthony shared some ideas about what the TA could do. What could be the roles and responsibilities of that TA that could free you up to maybe focus on looking at, if you asked a reflective question on a Google Sheet or some of those, you could be looking at that, kind of pulling together some responses for that. How would you recruit them? Would you just randomly draw the person each day, or would you recruit them ahead of time? Would you rotate through all students? Would you use it to build a sense of class community that everybody's going to get the opportunity to do this? Let those who maybe volunteer go first. Would you offer extra credit, or would it just be, one of the assignments? Or how would you do it? Would you let the same person go again and again, or would you want a variety? So why don't we just have a couple of you share your ideas in the chat, or feel free to unmute and share. It's great to hear your voices too.
Hi, this is Joni. I have students. Well, I put them in a list, and I did ask them ahead of time, like, are you a person that likes to be first? Are you a person that likes to go in the middle? Are you a person that likes to go at the end and to let everyone else go before you? And then once they told me that, I put them in a list. That list is posted, and they are a person who shares a current article, newspaper article, easy article on some topic in education. And so I have 2 a day. And those people, I guess I would have them be the TAs then as well. I have not done that yet, but that would be a good idea since they're already having a role that day as kind of a leadership role.
Absolutely. I love that. Or like discussion leader, or share an article, or having them come accountable for that. I love that, being the ones who bring an article to share.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Other ideas? I like, Anthony, you said DJ for the day, so they get to pick the music that starts?
Yeah. I started to do it, and then I was jumping all over the place. I'm like, hey, how about you pick one? You guys don't want to listen to my old fart music because our genres are very different right now. But it's fun to have them go out there and they start talking about that and talking smack on the chat, which I actually encourage. I really like that because that's how I normally do class. But then when I have whoever's doing that, sometimes it gets to be repetitive, that same person. Now I've got a couple of people that want to try and get on first because they want to do their song. So now they're kind of fighting to get in versus all those people that are waiting until that very last minute, to jump in, or a couple of minutes after. And so I don't know, I'm trying to get them in there. And then I just notate it in Canvas under the notes section. I just put like a little, I just put DJ on there and let them know that they've already done that DJ role. So it's easy to keep track of.
It's awesome that students are excited to get to class and they get there early to share or to have some of that. I really think it builds a sense of class community, and it's like I'm the instructor, you're the students. It really says we all have a responsibility, we all have a role. If we can all collaborate and chip in, it's going to be better, and it's kind of our classroom rather than my classroom or my class space. And I think it really does take the weight off us as instructors because we've got some co-pilots there, and I think it's just great skills that they're developing. You look at that communication skill specifically for your class, but it's one of our outcomes that they all have, good communication skills and they can collaborate and do teamwork. So I think it goes right in line with all of our goals as well as the college.
And I know, Jen, I just cannot process too many tasks at once. So when I'm driving, I tend to not watch the chat. I think my biggest thing would be, can I just have a student watch the chat for me and let me know if people have questions?
And if we have honors students, that might be a great way to have, we're going to start with, ask the honors students first. Some of the other things to think about is if you rotate through students, do you want to have them, whoever's going next, meet you at the end of the last session to say, hey, if there's something real specific they want to share, if there's some content that you want them to cover, just an idea for the day. You kind of get the liberty to get 2 minutes when we start, like this will be your topic if it's something related to class. So, even if they're a little bit nervous, meeting with them at the end of the previous class or setting that up the end of the previous class. Okay, who's going to go on Tuesday, and you can take a minute. I like to go in and grab their snapshot. All but 2 of mine this semester have their snapshots up there. And you can even put them up there on your opening slide, TA for the day. And I mean, what a great way for them to really feel special or something like that. Or, hey, I noticed you don't have one of your snapshots on the student roster. Do you want to send me a snapshot so I can put you up as TA for the day? Kind of spotlight them or showcase them or really call out that leadership that they're doing.
Hey, Jen, Roja's got a question that's not related to this. Do you want to address it right now and have people give us their input? Or do you want to save it until the end of the slides? She was asking about what different people think about having the students have their cameras on.
Mm-hmm. I'll share my perspective and then I welcome all others too. From a classroom management perspective, I think in the classroom we have them as their captive attention and we can read their faces and look at their faces. And so much of what I do is based off of their facial expression, but we also have some bandwidth issues. Do students have the ability to do that, or is it going to hamper that? So I think there's great options for both. Maybe saying to students, I'll be calling on some students, and when I call on you, Anthony, I'm going to have you turn on your camera and share your response. Or Andrea, when I call on you, please turn on your camera and or if you put an idea in the chat, I could just call on you. But I think that also holds them accountable because I'm just going to say tips I've learned from having my little co-pilot sit here. She went back to school today. She would turn off her camera and turn off her microphone, and then she'd be pulling in her gym mats and be doing a handstand while watching the teacher. And I'm like, no, you can't see the screen upside down. Just like when we're in the classroom, I would talk to a student who would just walk out of class and go to the coffee bar. When you're in here, it's a short amount of time. I want you engaged. I want you participating. If they know that you're going to randomly call on them or call on them to share or elaborate on something, I think they're more likely to be attentive. I think it's just too tempting and it's human nature. I've got so much to do. Maybe I can just do my homework during this class. I'll mute my camera and mute my microphone. So that's my opinion. If you say, hey, everybody, cameras on, wave, I'm going to call on a couple of you to share something. I think also visually, we went through a bunch of base camps and it wasn't until the end ones when we get started, I'd say, would everybody turn on their cameras just so I can see you and say hi? What that did for my teacher heart and my teacher soul to actually see the students, that was so for me, and it felt so good for them to actually see all of us on the screen at the same time in the same place. And it gave a sense of, Andrea, you said sometimes it feels like a monologue. And I've heard other people say, sometimes I feel like I'm a one-man band up here, and you don't really see. So I think it is good for them to see each other and you to see them and healthy. And it's I like it every once in a while, but I also know there's bandwidth issues. So love to see some of your ideas in the chat, or somebody if you want to unmute and share.
Well, Roja, that was horrifying that your students are in their live online class while they're driving.
I required it since after the first week. First week I said no. I required it after the second week, and I've had pretty much 100% participation. Juan showed me his forehead, and I said to him, I need to see your face. I said, my NAU daughter is here, and she told me she puts her camera up so she can be on her phone. So I said, I need to see your face, and he said, okay, absolutely. I've had periodically a chat message saying problem with microphone they just let me know if they're having a problem, but I enjoy it, and we haven't had any bandwidth problems.
We also need to talk about appropriateness. I had a student last semester. We weren't live online, but I hosted a session, and he's sitting on his bed with no shirt on. I'm like, Michael, dude, you got to put a shirt on for class. If you were coming to class, you'd need to wear a shirt. And another colleague said, one of the things that I think is just kind of surprising to me, my own daughter lives in an apartment with 4 other people. So they're sitting on their bed while attending class. It's awkward sometimes because they're sitting on their bed and you see their headboard. And so talking about appropriateness of environment, they might not have a desk or a kitchen table that they can go sit at. But one of our colleagues had students, and the student was sitting there online, and you could see her, but then you could casually see her boyfriend like rubbing her arm and rubbing her leg. So even if they're on their bed, we have to talk to them about like appropriate environment. And that's something that we really didn't have to do when we were face to face and had them in the classroom. So there's going to be things that come up, and just kind of reinforcing those online classroom rules, because there's new things. There's things we haven't even thought of yet that we're going to kind of continue to encounter. And we're like, oh, I got to make a rule for that. So lots of different opportunities here, but I think it's kind of one of those learning and growing as we go. Terry, you're saying you have more difficulty getting students to participate than if you were in class. The group work's helping, but so far they're just too quiet. Sometimes I think it takes maybe calling on them. In our next segment, I think we're going to be doing something with interaction. If you haven't played around with Pear Deck yet, it is a phenomenal tool, because you can do your Google Slides, and then you can just every couple questions have a response slide. And then in teacher mode, you can share the responses. So you can ask a question and then say, oh, 25% like chocolate, 40% like this, and you can show the students' responses in real time as they're responding. So that's a really great way to get some of that interaction. But sometimes calling on students and have them on mute. In the online live, they're in our classroom, so we can expect them to be present and engaged just like we do when they're in a physical classroom.
And Lori asked about our opinion, anybody's opinion, I imagine, of Pear Deck versus Nearpod.
I tend to like Pear Deck more. I don't know why. I just think it's a little quicker and easier. I don't know. That's just my personal, but they're both great. I think they both do a lot of similar things. Right now, Pear Deck has a 90-day free for teachers. The 2 extra functions that you typically pay for, you get for free. So I've just been playing in that. But my problem is if I use too many tools, I forget like the rules of the tools. I hadn't been in Kahoot for a while. I've been using Travinti as a quiz format. So I got back into Kahoot, and it's like, how do I manage again? Where do I navigate this? Like, I spent too much time navigating the tool that I'm like, I'm just going to stick with Travinti all semester, because the thing I like about that is I can ask a question and there's the response. And then they let you do a little follow-up as far as it's this because of this and not this. So it lets you give that follow-up after students answer the question. And I like that being completely online. So yeah, we got to be careful with pick one. You can play around with both, but then it gets a lot to like navigate between two. Any other ideas or suggestions? Who would like? I mean, Nearpod's great too. Any call-outs for Nearpod or Pear Deck or any other tools?
Jeremy may be able to answer better if either of those are supported by the college, because we used to have Nearpod licenses, but I don't think we ever had Pear Deck, and I don't think either one of them is anything that had widespread licensing use. So you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we do have a few Nearpod licenses, like 15 that we share, but we don't have anything for Pear Deck currently.
Well, like I said, it's 90 days free, and the 2 extra features you get are the draw feature. And for what I teach, I don't necessarily love it. And then where you move answers to like yes or no, or it's got a scheme of faces like how happy or content are you, and you can kind of move across the board. So those aren't typically the useful questions. So after getting it for free, I know that I probably wouldn't pay for those added on features, but it's a great time to try right now, because you can try it all for free for 90 days. And I'm like, that gets us near to the end of the semester.
And Terry, about the whiteboard, I don't know. I think that the whiteboard discussion could probably take up a whole live online. We may just devote one to that. What are people doing in terms of whiteboard sharing? Because I think some people are using their iPads. Some people are using the tool internal to WebEx. I was showing somebody that you could use a Word document and draw on it. So there's going to be lots of options. And I think it sounded like everybody kind of covered these in terms of what would you do with the TA, welcoming your classmates upon joining, taking attendance, monitoring chat. I hadn't thought about the discussion leader. Do you use that, Jen, or have you?
Having someone bring something like Joni suggested, having students take turns to bring like a current article related to something that we're talking about, or a current event or something like that. Reading the chat, I certainly see there's a need to really solidify like what is expected in the online environment for behavior, like what is okay. It's not okay to be driving. We've had students, same thing, like I want to be driving in the car while I'm attending session. Well, that's not safe for them, and that's really not, they can't really be engaged in class. They have to be in a position where they can be called on and contribute either like in the chat or verbally. So this next one is just another home screen, kind of highlighting a little bit that role and making it a little bit like the superstar. So here's the TA for today, and we've got Bill G being our TA for Thursday. You could put like a brief agenda, what their homework is, just as a reminder, maybe a quote for the day, and then a little countdown timer in the bottom. So really using that entry screen as a place where students know they're going to get information. It's going to be important to them, and they're going to want to log on 2 or 3 minutes beforehand to just kind of get themselves settled. I think this would be great reinforcement too for students who feel like maybe the pace is a little fast for online live and they can kind of get there and get settled. We talked about having a student be a TA. If you feel like it's too much for one student, or you had, maybe I like the DJ for the day, I want to certainly add that, but maybe there's other classroom jobs. Maybe someone specifically is the mic monitor, like telling you can't always hear when you're breaking up, or when your Wi-Fi is bad, or if you're having students raise their hand, somebody that helps with that, or someone who maybe just specifically watches the chat, or someone who is just greeting people as they come in, like they need to be there 5 minutes ahead of time, and as people come in, say, hi, turn on your camera. Sometimes I love to do that too, but it's also nice if you're having them fill out an attendance sheet and you can go to the attendance sheet and just see if you asked a specific question. That's a great way to quickly review a topic in or ticket in and get any feedback and let that information inform the content that you're about to share. So just some other ideas as well. Unmute, and we are dying to hear some of your tips. What are some strategies you've used? What are some things that have just worked great and some things like this did not work at all? What are some challenges and what worked well?
One of the things I go back to the whole screen and watching students, and I don't like having everybody's mic on because you are picking up everything on the back. But just a simple thumbs up. Hey, how do you guys feel about that? Give me a thumbs up. Or what we've been doing a lot is when somebody's doing something, we're doing the whole clapping like that. And I think it's actually pretty cool to see on there when somebody has done something, or I'm trying to do more quick presentations in the classroom online where we have been doing them video recorded this way. And so I'm experimenting with all that sort of stuff. But that engagement, that visual engagement is huge. And I actually like it better than the handheld raised on the where you can see that. But when somebody kind of does this on their screen, I tend to see that more so than the other way.
I love that, even if they're keeping their mics muted. Say you're a student that presented everyone and everybody's giving you kind of a high five. It's a nice visual check-in for you, and what great nonverbal communication, right? The thumbs up, it's hard to navigate between the chat and the hand raise and all these different features, but if you can see those visual, and again, for us as teachers, I think we miss seeing our students, even if it's for little periods of time throughout the lesson. Everybody, turn on your cameras, give me a thumbs up, sideways or down. Great. Any other strategies?
I don't really have a strategy for this, but I wanted to point out that we're trying to figure everything out. And in my class, in my Hume class, I share a lot of little like 2-minute videos or something that's a media. And of course, down at the bottom where you have to share, you can't share it that way. You have to go up above. So I had to figure that out to go, it's like, because I just thought I knew how to do it. And so the students are seeing us explore and make mistakes, and I just have them laugh. So my hint is when you mess up, just start laughing and, tell them it's okay to mess up. We're all in this together.
I love that. And I know, the CTLA, like we've got a team of 4 or 5 of us, and we're running base camps, and we mess up. Like the technology goes bad, things happen. And I actually think it humanizes us a little bit to the students, and they don't have to feel like everything has to go perfect for them too. I know my little one was stressing one day because things weren't just working, and they weren't for her teacher either. And I mean, just having that reassurance that we're going to do the best we can with the resources we have in the moment. And I think we all feel like first-year teachers again. It doesn't matter how much experience we have. We all feel like we've been thrown back into that boat of being first-year teachers, and we have to allow ourselves some time for those technology challenges and saying to students, not if things go wrong, but like when they do, here's our plan B. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have one of you just pick up with the discussion, just like we would in class, And I think that really fosters or nurtures a sense of community in the classroom and helping each other, working together, and again, letting them see each other a little bit more. Maybe they'll be able to make some more connections and things like when they're working in groups. Other suggestions? We love hearing you guys.
I haven't done any of this online because I'm a librarian, so we just do that one, class. But I did that WebEx training last week, and we had a problem with the second device creating a lot of feedback. And he had said when you log on that second device, because you can't really see what you're presenting, the student view of it, the second device, you just totally take the audio off. And he said that'll eliminate the feedback. And that was like a huge thing for me to learn.
I love that. That's a great suggestion. Yeah, having that second device. And I think being cognizant of what we're asking students to do too. In one lesson, the instructor was saying, make sure that you enable cookies and your Adobe Flash is updated, and you're going to get a PDF and split your screen. If we're asking students to do those, maybe a good giving them an example or model or taking the time to show them how we can't come in with the expectation that they're this generation where they're all tech savvy. If what you're asking them to do is more efficient if they split the screen, then maybe taking that couple moments to teach them how to split the screen. So don't overestimate their tech skills. They're great on Snapchat and some other features, but maybe helping them learn how to navigate so that they can be most efficient too, especially if you're going to require them to have, something more than your screen open. Tell them what strategies you're expecting. I know that I still like to handwrite when I'm taking notes. So is that something students can do, or is there an option where they're taking notes in a worksheet type document? So giving options, helping support students who learn differently. I know like word processing is difficult for me. I like to actually write on paper when I'm first taking notes. So helping students navigate through some of those basic things, just like if we were back teaching, students in a whole new environment, and it's new for our students just as much as it's new for us, and they are super nervous even about unmuting to begin, and raising their hand feature, and I want to make sure that I'm mic ready, and again acknowledging that a lot of our students are in environments where they don't have a desk to sit at. They're sitting on their bed. They might have 4 or 5 roommates. They might be sharing a computer among family members. So all the challenges that we have, they're having sometimes, in more magnitude. So acknowledging that and, making sure that you're reaching out so students have that opportunity to share with you, hey, this is really difficult. Like I keep my mic off because of this, or there's something that being open and approachable and an opportunity for students to share that, doing check-ins. How's it going so far? Are you enjoying the sessions? Are you engaged? What could you do better? What could I do better? I think those constant check-ins are going to help us evolve and really master this modality of teaching the way we've mastered the face-to-face and the online. And I truly think like you guys doing this live online are kind of the pioneers at our college, because you're doing this new venture of teaching. So it's okay that we feel a little anxious about it, and there's challenges.
Well, I have a question, Jen, because I know we're just about at the end of our formal thing here before you show people the extras that you're giving them. We will be meeting every Tuesday. We do still have 20 minutes. I just want to get in. We will be meeting every Tuesday, but every week's going to look different. For some weeks, if you're willing to volunteer, we would love to have some people telling us what's going well in their classrooms to help out other faculty. Some weeks we may be just showing you tools, but what I'm hoping is that you guys will drop some feedback into our suggestion box. So if you go to the bit.ly/LOL suggestion box, and it is case sensitive, so the LOL has to be uppercase. So LOL suggestion box, we would appreciate that, because we're hoping to develop our week-to-week content based on your feedback and not by trying to guess what it is that you need.
And Mary, do you want to share? We've got some great guest speakers who have already, some people are really rocking after the base camp and said, I've developed some cool things I want to share. So if you're feeling that same way and you've got something that you've tried and it's working really well, I know in our course, there's 3 of us that have played with Pear Deck, and we had a Saturday play session where one of us led and the others were students, and then we took turns kind of leading and seeing what it was like, what the responses were like. And we've had so much fun with it, and the student response and feedback has been phenomenal. So the thing I like about that tool is my 2 colleagues are teaching live online, I'm teaching online. You can launch that synchronously so that they can go through together as a class, or asynchronously so students can go through it independently. So many of the tools that were either one format or another are now making formats so that students can do them independently or on their own time. So it's been a really great, our tools have really stepped up too. So we're looking forward to sharing some of those engagement tools as well.
So here's my question for you guys. And please, 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 you can answer it in the chat or you can unmute your microphone. What I want to know is, it's been a stressful several months, and I'm sure the last couple of weeks, a lot of people were really nervous about it. So I would like to know, what is your one moment of triumph that you had in the last 2 weeks? Something that really stands out, that you were super successful in this weird environment. So you can put your response to that in the chat, or you can unmute your microphone.
Hi there, Nicolette Bessling. I had a student who signed up for my class this semester that took me last semester. And when we were first getting to know each other online, like all the students, I recognized him, and he had a female in his room. And so I kind of joked around like, oh, who's behind you? Like, girlfriend? And she's on her computer. It's like, oh no, that's my sister. And then all of a sudden another girl kind of walks back, and you can tell his bed, she's like coming off the bed. So you mentioned the weird things happening. So I'm like, oh my God, how many women do you have in your room? Like, what is happening here? And all of a sudden this like complete laughter erupts, and his mother is also in my class. And so it turns out it's him, his two sisters, and his mom who are all in this class taking me. And they just said, this is why we're here. Our son said, you are fun, you're talkative. We want to have a fun experience, even though we can't be online. So it reminded me to do those things like, hey, I like your shirt. Hey, where are you at? Did you just order coffee? Like, what are you doing? And having those, like you say, when you'd be in class, right, to say, turn off your phone, look at me. What is going on? They want that. They want that accountability, and they want that interaction with you. But it really started off that class in a really fun way.
Yeah, I think that's also the other end of it too, because I had some students, because I'm like that typically until I had a student and she was very upset that I called her out, and I wasn't being mean. I was just saying, hey, I'm noticing this, and she got really embarrassed because I saw that she was distracted, and so I was trying to ease that in, and I'm always joking around. And I know that there's a lot of students that are just dying on the other end saying, don't call on me, and that was one of the problems that we had with other classes too, is that we wanted to give them time to think and encourage them to do it. And so that balance between these two environments is what's really interesting. And I am very much like that. And I think it's important that if you're going to be like that, you set that expectation up front, and then how you respond to that, because students are getting different vibes from different instructors, and they don't know how to react in these different areas. That's what I'm finding anyway.
I think like sharing those like online classroom expectations is going to be ongoing throughout the semester. And every time we approach something new, like, so say students doing a speech or communication or presenting something, like, how do we as an audience, how are we going to navigate this experience? So I think if we can capture all of these things that we're doing, and then next semester we'll like really go in ahead of time knowing how to prep. But I think so much of it is learning as we go. Andrea, were you going to share? Do you have something?
I was just going to say, I let them know that I go back to the chat and and mark if they respond, because I want, if I ask a question, that needs a response, and I let them know I go back, and that I can download Pear Deck and see that if they participated. And I said, it's really important to me that I hear from you.
Terry says her moment of triumph is basically she's getting on top of the tech. That ability to share multiple files and media and videos, and making sure she has her second computer so she can see what the students are seeing. So a lot of those tips that had been given earlier, but I bet it takes a while to get fluid with that.
I will say I keep losing my poll through Cisco. I don't know where it saves. I find it, and then I think I panic in the moment of the teaching. I'm like, where is it? Then I'm like, okay, let's move on. Let's answer in chat. So I've got to get more fluid with that. But, the triumph was, with Jen's help, the Pear Deck, I thought it was just amazing. And the students loved it too.
And my students are doing it asynchronously, so I can launch it asynchronously. But that is the only way that I know. So they've got a little video and then a reflection question. And then there's a little bit of content. And then there's some reading and then a reflection question. That's the only way that I know they don't jump straight to the assignment. So even if I give them 5 points for going through this 40-minute Pear Deck of activities that is, multimedia, different kinds of things, and I'm asking discussion questions, that's how I assure they do it. Otherwise, let's just skip it and go straight to the assignment without doing the content. So it's trying to build in that accountability piece, because I think that can be a challenge if students just want to go to the assignment and get it done. So how do you kind of make that interactive and fun? And we had a poll and a student said, could you share the responses? I'm just curious. Like, I don't, did everybody respond this way? So I think it is a nice way for them to engage, whether they're with you live or even online, because it's interactive.
Jeremy, you're a little higher up the tech scale than I am. Did you see Terry's question? Having issues with the polls during class, and she wondered if it's possible that it could be a bandwidth issue?
I don't believe it would be a bandwidth issue with polls, although I say that with not an entire amount of certainty, because I think really ultimately anything could be a bandwidth issue. But I guess I would kind of want to diagnose more of the symptoms and see if we could kind of pinpoint what might be happening, and if it's something that some students are seeing and others are not, or if it's just dig into that a little bit more rather than saying that it would be a strictly bandwidth thing. Because there are certainly a few other variables at play with the polling. But it's definitely something, Terry, if you want to connect with CTLA, we can dig into and see if we can get that figured out for you.
Jen, do you want to show some of the goodies that you added?
In the chat is the link to this presentation, and in it we've just put a few bonus materials. So you just want to pop through a couple quickly. Some people have said, like, where do you get the online timers? There's a collection of maybe 4 or 5 favorite icons, because sometimes people will want the icons for muted, not muted, or chat. So here's some of our favorite icons that you can just copy and paste. Here are my favorite 5-minute timers. So you can just copy these and paste these in your presentation. The next one, they're a little bit different. There's a dog one I like. So some of them have different music. There are certainly challenges if you were there with us right away at the beginning with launching the music and having it sound gritty or grainy or optimizing. I mean, sometimes it's one extra step. But I love the idea Anthony had again of DJ for the day. Students could add the music, but I do like the timer because I said even with Mary, I've got one time, she's got another, my other computer has another time. So it just kind of syncs us all at the same time, and students as well. The next one are just some of my favorite backgrounds, like if you're going to do that background slide, and we don't have to go through all of these, but there's just some great ones if you are just wanting to do something with a background. They're just really good ones. So they're just backgrounds. So if you click on that link, that will force a copy of this presentation, and then you can just use any of the things that any of the icons or any of those things. And we will be looking at your suggestions for our next time. Mary, what do we have planned for next time?
We don't know. We have to go look in the suggestion box.
And I think we might have a guest speaker next time, so we're still rounding those up. And if you have tried something or want to demo something, that would be great too. We're hearing a lot about getting students actively engaged. So maybe we'll do something with Pear Deck. So Andrea, I might call on you to be my Pear Deck partner next time, and we can kind of demo. You can see what it looks like from a student perspective. And play around a little bit with that, but that really is a fun, engaging way. If any of you guys have things or suggestions, I'd really like to pull us together as a community of, you guys are, those explorers, the first ones doing this live online. So anything you learn in the process is going to help everyone else who is yet to do this as well. Okay, so if everybody would turn their cameras on, isn't it good to see people? I mean, isn't it so great to just see faces? Like sometimes that just feels so good to be able to get to see all of our students. And I think they need that too. They need to see that they're part of a community and part of a group as well.
Yeah, I couldn't see anybody while I was presenting. I was sad.
Yay, it's so good to see your faces. So we will be doing this again next Tuesday. Join us if you can. Share suggestions. Or bring something to the pot to share. If you have something you tried this week and it works really well, share it. If it bombs, share that too, so we don't try it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, isn't it? People like at conferences always want to tell you all the good news. I'm like, no, give me the ugly stuff too, so that I can learn from that. So if something goes really badly and you want to warn everybody else not to do that, then We want to hear about it.
I love the chat feature when we're all in and everybody's in and you're midway through. I hate it at the beginning because there's so many people that miss pieces. So all of those things. Anthony, I love your visual, having everybody give some kind of visual thumbs up or thumbs down. I think that is really a great way to help students stay connected. All right, if that's it. You're free to stay and welcome and chat if you want to. If that's not it, that's all we have for today. But any ideas you want to share, pop on. Bye.
Jen, do you have Bitmoji attached to your slides?
Yeah.
I love it. That's so cute. I just learned that today that people are doing that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love
Oh,
it.
that's tip 4.
We could do Chrome extensions, a whole session on that.
I know, right? Gosh.
Yeah.